Keyoxatini, Stikatuhan, Ilchish, Patiati, Inkakunik, a Katsewak, Shukwa Achtosaguan, Inkakuniki Yaiti, Naskiki Hana, Kelchas Uhan, we Mook a 2 day to at Eka Shkun, Hasituasagu Mook, Yekokwas Ya Achtuasagu. A'aduwóos'i helke wasak wati ya hasu yaltakatuhan ka ja'adusa hasu chiu or hasu khandika kwagudi ya kwalshia de hine kuu zoom tunach we chat tu daya kakwashahit we link chagusayeti Kolse yagen akakwashia shukwa Yika kwalchanig, a dati techotang shutlai, a techogudi. Ach ye jene ye dach aya ha techogudi. De kutzeti, kalka, de yekt, zatnach ate. Shinach akoa, we hit ga nach de kutzeti. On kanin zatnach techogu nach a gutsch. Jacht was ago, Clark a dechogudi. Ger it na teach one kanins. Gwasha achtuasagu koa ya hade na gutni ka khas achtuasagu khallatinch we she nach ga nach awe koa we de. Gwash naska du shutag shu hichen. Yes, aya. Hadechogud ka tu. Ja ach jene itikuk koa we yach yewutien. We hit kelkusti dat Sobolov annex yudusagan. Adachawe chogud ka chosatin. Masai s'íxʼ dus.ée. S'íxʼ dus.ée. Aya nachaya chogud ka chosatin. We k'u Kesha saknin yudusago at we saknin ka marinara ka kutzina tchai ka one kanins pepperoni ka chatasa kiln yudusago at we s'íxʼ dus.ée. Shukwa awe hasakau shutas out ak we talk shkun talk vaya ajowe kesha saknin has ʼaduwóos'i has khatchewa si toigesagu yichai khatqa takach tuasagage shike aka we kaka konechocha hadechogut ka ichwashatu wegam hi talk aya gwash kliye achye jene yak konachwe kakauchakit talk yes koa hi ituasako ye awa hi wa aka ach ye jene de kakwaku ach ye jene itikate kakwaku ka nach de ka khosatin Wooch ka gate Gan to at khat kawe s'eek k'átsk'u. Ye awa ye khwaji s'eek yadi du tla awlhla. S'eek k'átsk'u du tla dachwugu. A koa takawe du tla inkhusati. Gwash s'eek k'átsk'u koa tlainach yeti wan kanins. Aka s'eek yan wati at s'eek k'átsk'u khosatin Wooch ka gedi S'eek genki gawa dati techutan. Gwasach tuch willa chish a yanach waguti yag. A dati techutan. Kessach tuashka. Aka ye yachsaka. Het wasak wati. Adechat na u. Aka ayach. Ayach. Ayach de gut. Ayach de gut. Chitlai ayach de guti aya. Qone ach itch yanagut with S'eek k'átsk'u. Tlesh ach a kach wal chik koa. Yechoji just jagude sa wugudi. Ja ana ya qone ade wugud. Ya ach yejne itikade chogud helwa sa wuti. Gwell a jowe gedein has ausi koa. Qanachwe ausinik. Qadutu ausi gutu qilla sakni. Yewe ach shkalnigi. Ilchisha khedi sa achi. Wasai eti yagi. Wasai tu Wooch.
Okay.
Okay. Cheese.
Okay.
Okay. Unigun.
Yeah, wisdom de ka.
Oh, Nishan.
Klashida.
Nikaya kachuche na teach. The cut at de cut with a shot. Quashi. Katak to asku. Yek quatek with Nico. Okay. Ik could Nika Kadain Jiné de us. Ik could Nika Kadain Jiné de us. Yeah, oh, and Yashaha Shahitu de Shia. Yeah, okay. Ach, to was a good Kainigi, ach, Skalnigi. Like Hachinach. What's my story about? The volume is a little low. Oh, can you guys? Khati achchike? Oh, Ishan. Check.
Describe making pizza. You describe making pizza, bread, s'íxʼ, marinara, pepperoni.
Who was making pizza?
Are you talking about someone making pizza in the kiln?
Yeah, the pottery students. So I used to have.
We can hear you okay, but the rest of the class is hard. The people in the room are hard to hear.
I can't hear you at all.
There we go.
Saying anything.
You just learned what the top button does. So, okay. Yeah, I just had to talk a little louder.
Well, then at some point there were bears.
Yeah.
You were looking at each other, and at some point they went down south or down up the river, down the river, or something like that. But I'm not sure how that's all connected.
Oh, interesting. Yes, that's
Something to do with also cleaning the kiln.
Yeah, so they have
Clean it well.
Well, I think they're cooking. They're really cooking. They're like. So I was trying to let's see. When I leave my office to come here, I can go left or right. If I'm in a hurry, because I'm always late, I go left. But sometimes I like to go right and then look at the lake while I'm walking over here. The little lake called áatl. And I had an office that was down by the shore of the lake called the Sobolov Annex, which doesn't exist anymore. And one time I was coming to class from there, and it was fall time. I also said, "Tauk away, yan yejechanei, kakao chakit, yes koa a." What's that? Do we know kia or kea?
Like the dawn?
The dawn. So kea.
The sunset?
Yeah, the dusk. Yeah, dusk. So like, Qaqan ye nahich is the sun is setting. Qaqan wuhi, the sun set. But you could also say he wa'a, it was dusk. It's a verb, but it has to do with like he wa'a, like suhaka he wa'a. I don't think it translates very well in English. Like it has dawned on us again. It feels like we just realized it, but that's because of like a little idiom there. But like the day broke on us again. Like we have a verb for the sun to break the surface of the earth, which is qiwa'a, and it's called qi'a and qiqi or qiqi for when it just breaks that surface. But we also have a word for like when it's dusk. So that's hi'a is the noun form. Hewa'a is the verb. So this was in the fall, and so it wasn't too dark. And then I came to class, and they were lighting the first fires in the kiln. And I don't know if they still do it, because I'm not down there anymore. But they were making pizzas in there. They still do it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a tradition, like when they fire up the kilns the first time of the year for like fall semesters, when the academic year starts, they get to make their own pizzas. And so they were really cooking great pizzas. And when I walked by, and they're like, "You want some pizza?" And I was like, "I always want pizza." So I ate a piece on the way to class. But then when I was done teaching, it wasn't dark like in the winter because it was fall. So I was walking back, and I took the lakeside. Ganach, do we know that? Hit ganach, around the outside of the house. So ganach, gan and nach, or like shak away. Akakedi ganach yeti. How's that? Shak away. Akakedi ganach yeti.
Is it that there are strawberry seeds around the house?
Strawberries have their seeds on the outside.
Oh, okay.
So ganach is around the outside. Daka is a surrounding surface. So just like thinking of how those things work. But I was on the path that goes along the side of the building there, the ganach, and I saw a black bear. I have a theory. So my theory is with animals, it's yedi if it's still with its mama and feeding from the mother. And it doesn't really go out on its own. And it goes to k'átsk'u when it starts to go out on its own. And I think it's k'átsk'u until it's full grown, and then it's just the word of the thing. The underline with just an X. But I think it's hi'a. So it's with ke and ki, you do get a dialect variation, but I think it's always he. Anyways, so there's my theory on. I saw this adolescent black bear, which if you live here, it's certainly big enough. And the trail is probably, or the little pathway on the outside of these buildings, probably 10 feet across. And when I first saw it, we both stopped. And then I had a thought, which was, I could probably go around it. But then I thought, I don't want to go around it. So then I said to it, which is what?
Start off with ʼtwasaq, which is it's okay.
I don't mean you harm. Excuse me.
It sounded like there was a forgive me in there.
Yeah, so it will be okay, forgive me. And then I turned around, and so I had to remember that verb because it has built onto the front. It's got to be there. So you have ya, a plus D classifier, and it's a 0. So ayachtakut. I turned around while walking. Ayachtakut. And that pattern works for all motion. So ayachtakuch. I turned the car around or the boat. So it's a handy one to know. So I turned around, and then when I started walking, it was technically following me, but I wasn't scared because it was just going the same way that it was going before. And I just went to my office, and everything was fine. So it was my little story. True. k'écha.
There were some references to shichun. Weren't there? Was it the smell of the pizza
Oh,
or?
yeah, it's ʼaduwóos'i or something like that. I think because they were cooking pizzas, which is, Jeff Lear named it platter bread, which is great. I think it smelled ʼaduwóos'i ʼatsu. No. Yeah, ʼaduwóos'i achai. There we go. Double your third person non-human pronouns. A'tuwóos'i achai. Okay?
Didn't you also say something like hastu tla du tla awa tla?
Yeah.
Something like that, which I think like talking about like the bears, I can't even think of like the word in
You,
English, like what it's called.
well, like that, yeah, it's a big translation question. So cha is a breast and awa
Yeah,
is to nurse or suck.
nurse. Yes, that's the word I was thinking.
So du cha awa cha would be, that's how you say that. And that is another zero conjugation. So maybe in some other conversation, some anonymous people were thinking of Tlingit teasing insults. Someone said "shachai," which is kind of funny. But I never said it. Even just now, I never said it. I guess you translate as "suck it, sucker." So, anyways, any language things you've been thinking about? Questions, ideas?
I was wondering about versus one.
Wait, say it again.
Versus one. When you're softening a request.
Oh, yeah. One is the first time I used it with my kid. I said, "Achitza inhin kwan," and she said, "I'm not a boot." So not that word. So it does soften a command, and so does k'eh. So k'eh is like, it would be good if you did. So k'eh command. So uh, k'eh it'd be good if you came here. And then you can also use hortatives. K'eh it'd be good if we went there. And then kwan is, I think, more like may you, I guess is maybe something like that. I don't know, because I don't hear it that much. Like I think when Tlingit uses commands, we just go for it, to be honest. But maybe if you didn't know the person, you might add something there. But I guess I push back a little bit because I feel like people really want to have the word please in Tlingit somehow, and I just don't think it full on exists. But and keush, we were talking about this. I was talking about someone the other day. Keush, and then a command would be, if only you did. Keush achis is no. Keush achis. If only. Oh wait, no. Here's my third try. Keush achis ʼatsk. If only you cooked something for me, which would be a very fun way to ask for a meal, I guess. Sounds like you're being tricky. Does that answer the question?
When you just said that, is that like if you were to use ka'ush, would you have the verb in the command form?
Is. And then let's take a look. I got some notes on this one. And just want to give a shout out to ʼatudli.átk because I think it's probably her and Jitwu and we were talking about this word k'eh. And so we all did a deep dive into dutéeni, so we looked in Elizabeth Nyman's book, And there's a whole bunch of examples in her book of this word k'ah. She uses it like an awful lot. So let me pull it up in the dictionary. And there's a couple of notes. It took some like conversations and just thinking about how this word works. And I think there's probably even more than what's listed on here. But it's like k'eh and then command. Oh, there's the k'eh and then the command and then oosh. So I was doing k'eh oosh first. And then k'eh verb oosh as if, which, so I guess you could say k'eh oosh. It's as if they gave them all of their love. But like, so those are, I could pull some examples. I think I have some written up somewhere from Nyman. And Nyman, we have a scanned version of the book because it's $400 because it's out of print. And we also have some retypes of them using this orthography as well. But then this command can also be a hortative, for first person plural, because that's how you sort of command us as a group. Yeah, and these are things you see. You see the old speakers, like I guess they call it classic Tlingit, but like there's these old speakers, and it just reminds me of talking with George and Marge. And one time there was a meeting they were both there, and several others. Kaseyach was there, and Yachdutlakt, and lots of just wonderful speakers. And it was Qadnaq, Fred White, who said, tell us things you don't hear anymore. And it was such a wonderful session, and they used a whole bunch of things like this, and pushkatan, and they were really good at just remembering these little things that do so much stuff in the language. Okay. Okay.
Can you use it in a few more examples so we can get an idea of what it means? Like as if, to me, it's like when I just read as if, it was like a sort of in English, it's like, oh, as if. But I don't think that's what the meaning is.
If only you would, oh wait, did I do it right? If only you would read what was in this.
Okay.
Shukaadé naaléi dutéeni linúkdzi Áatl. Kashuk. I don't know how you'd say talk where hookni. Kashuk had ek kayeti. Something like that. Yisikuke kuhuk. Kuahuk. Kuhuk. Kunachwe achduk. Kudach uahuk. Áatl neis a kayeti. Gwash. We dachnach a. Wooch kageti. Has wooch Kashuk aya. Has wooch kaushuk. Wooch kukwashuk. Kukwashuk. Chidzi achji yayaki. Static electricity. I don't know how you talk about that. Kuhuk is dry weather when it's real dry. Like Fairbanks, yeah, away. Kaidus to ya you. Gwash it was a go woosh 8 years ai. Yi jingash woosh jingash shachukwa. Gwashi to was a go woosh 8 years ai. Wooch jin gashat shukwa. What's that? Gwash yi tuwasaku.
Maybe you all want.
Maybe I'll want.
Wooch chait yais ayi.
Each other's mouths?
To kiss each other. Wooch jin gashat shukwa.
Hold hands first.
Yeah, because then you shock. Because static, like winter time, everything gets so dry. Like sometimes we get these cold spells here, and I know when we've got a good one because like I start getting cracks in my hands and stuff. So, anyways, you want to read a fortune cookie? Translate.
Start. I feel like you have my fortune cookie.
It says, a message from a distance is coming.
A message from a distance is coming. How exciting. Okay. Make a new document. Share this document. Change the font. Ooh. Okay, when we all retire, we'll work in the Tlingit fortune cookie factory. Translate all day. A message. I could manufacture it. Wasa yitu Wooch? Chatusa.
Yakka? A word?
Ede.
Oops. I had an equation.
Oh, yakka, not yakka.
Oh, like something said? Is that it?
It says, well, so look up word.
K'átsk'u. K'átsk'u.
Eh, from their mouth. There's a story in Danish in the dictionary.
Oh, really?
Huh.
Well, that's to their mouth, right?
Oh, hang on a second.
So it should be
It's
chedag, maybe?
he heard the message is how they translate it. Ede awa.
Oh.
Yeah, I found that in the dictionary.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
okay, that's interesting. They heard, I guess literally what we end up with they heard towards the other their mouth. So that would be a message, but that would require you to be in the same physical space because you're hearing it.
So are we looking for a written message?
I don't know. I guess a message is coming.
Sounds like a Muppets in Space type deal.
Would you just say neek?
I think, yeah, like news.
Oh.
You could, like, Poon. You could do something like that. A thing that people tell to people. That's like that's the manufacturing process. Love the fourth persons for that. Neek, okay, I like neek. From a distance.
Wede.
I'm finding a shay for distance. So call um Kahoseji maybe? I'm trying to make it up without using a conjugator, so
We can use naaléi. And how would you say a far away place?
Naaléi.
Naaléi
Naaléi.
would be a distant one.
Dia.
Kaya would be farther over. We're with naaléi, and I'm going to say we're going to use this, but maybe a different following noun thing. What's the place? How do we do the place for a verb?
Oh, yay.
So yeah. So yeah is the place. And you can, so if we have naaléi yeah, a distant place, the fun thing about this is you can go, I don't need that part, but I could say yede, and I could say yedach, and I could say yenach, right? So we can add these suffixes to yeah. So naaléi yede, to a distant place, from a distant place, through a distant place. The nach one is kind of fun because you could say achwash, achwatle, achwatle, qini, enach, keuatan. That's a sentence. Ach, achtlaqini yenach, keuatan. What would that be? What would outlaqini yeh be? What about outlaqin? Do we know that verb?
I looked on it or I looked upon it.
Outlaqini yenach, keuatan. Do we know the second verb in that one? Keuatan.
That's not a carrying verb.
No, unfortunately, there's like 9 different tan verb roots. This is maybe the ninth one, which is for a fish to jump. Keuatan. A king salmon jumped at the place where I was looking. It's kind of cool. Okay, so now we've got neek. Okay, we're on neek. Naaléi yedach. 2 more parts, and I think we got this. We could have our little cookie.
Could use good for
Yeah,
the
no good.
future. Could quite good.
You could, yeah, okay. So you could say Yanagut because it is coming. Well, I guess this is interesting too. Does this mean like it's on its way, or it's going to?
I would say it's on its way, but it hasn't arrived yet.
That's what it feels like, right? So you could say Yanagut, and they do like the goot does mean walking, But if you say like something like nik hachuduakut, a sickness came upon us. So non-human things can goot. But then you've got to, as translators, you always have to make decisions. Like you could say, ya kanahain, is it's just sort of like mysteriously on its way here. You could also say, ya yanahain, it's coming here and nobody can see it. And you could say, ya jindu hain, it's being sent, like through the post office or something. So kind of, you got to decide, like Tlingit loves to be so specific. Like Dick Dowenhauer used to always joke about like C-spot run. He's like, well, where is he running? And what is he going there for? And how fast is he going? Who's with him? So Tlingit, it just loves all the details. But this is neat because now you can translate in your own way. You can decide what it is.
Reader's preference.
That's right. Kanahain and Yanahain sounds pretty mysterious. Those are pretty fun. Yanagut, maybe.
Well, it is a fortune, so I think it is a little mysterious.
Right?
Yanahain.
It could also be interpreted as gossip is coming. So, okay.
So we're going to use the imperfective instead of future.
These are progressives. So motion verbs, you can use progressives or futures. There are no imperfectives for motion verbs. And so if it's moving and it's happening now, but you could say, news will be coming from afar. And then you could say, kakwaha, yakwaha, and jinachduha. No. Jigachduha. Wow. It's a difficult day for me in Tlingit. Interesting.
So looking in the dictionary, there's also the woo set of
Yes.
verbs. Are we not using those because they're event verbs rather than something you can do a progressive with?
Yeah, so it could be, that's a great question. So is it under send?
Sure. There's send, order.
Okay,
take.
We'll look at send first, and then we'll look at order. The woo is. Oh, go ahead.
I'm looking in the HTML dictionary, not in that one.
Okay. So this one, this is if you're going to send something. So it could be, you could say, but this requires a sender. So this is yet another option. And you could also use this to say, then you'd say nikch. So you'd have to put the CH on there to say what is being sent. So I would change the word order so that it's right next to the verb. Naaléi yedach nikch. And then you would have ya unduswain. So when you close woo, you're going to get way, just like this example here. A'duwóos'i. People are regularly sending stuff, but then the message is specifically coming through the mail, usually. But, like, it means somebody is sending it to you. So I guess it didn't always have to come, like we would have used this. This is a great verb to use for email, right? I will send it to you. Which, yeah, okay. So then you got k'átsk'u, so then you can see how jiné and can be on the part of it as far as like sending and receiving. It's a great one for email. It's a great one for sending mail, sending something. Like it could also work for, my friend is going to Dísi, so I'm going to have them bring you some of this stuff. So I am sending it to you through them. So that works. And then there's also to order something, which I think there's a conversation with Kasech, Selena Everson, and Shikshani, Marge Dudson, where they talk about ordering stuff from a catalog when they were growing up. It's very fun. So then we see that same verb here, and then you could see the negative, so you get the prohibitive form. This also tells you it likes to say hi, doesn't go low, because that I would expect that to be low. So this is using, what is kind of suffix is that?
Repetitive.
Repetitive in a series. So they periodically, regularly order from the book. Nobody does that anymore, do they? I don't think they do. Went out with what's the thing where you like buy 12 CDs for a penny? I think we order online. Kashuk. Oh wait, ʼatudli.átk awaits. They order online all the time. ʼaduwóos'i. Oh, that's, I don't even think I have that entered into the dictionary. I should put it in there for the archives. But that is a great verb, woo. This is also something you say. Gwash yak yikt ye yiti akayani kuch eitini kach kayisatin kid cha hastu gush yisatin ye awishingit kusti qunch akade ye kach Jesus hin chukach kahasu yade cake ich. Achet I woo. Ye awe chak tagu at yeich. Asiekt wujjakak. Ausatin hin yich. A'duwóos'i. Shak has ausadik. Kahutsu oneke uwa ich. Achet I woo. Gwashi ka ke an kwakoots. So, translate that. It's translation day, folks. Even though my tlingit is strangely strange.
It's something about ordering food.
So, achet is to my mouth. And when do you say it?
You see a killer whale?
Yeah, when you're out on the ocean, you see a killer whale, you put tobacco into the water, and you say, achet I woo. Send us something to eat. And then Raven, in a story, was sitting in a tree down at the Nas Jiné, and he saw these people dip netting for driftwood. I don't know why. But then he said to them, achet I woo, gwashi ka ke an kwakoots. What is that? Gwashi ka ke an kwakoots. Is that right? I think that's right. Gwashi ka. Yeah.
Maybe y'all's person?
Well, it's a, I might do something. What is k'aa? We gotta go back to that word. All the way back. Spin around. What's k'aa? Or k'aa? It's a noun.
Dawn.
It's the dawn, the daybreak. Gwashi ka ke an kwakoots. I might break the daylight on you. And it comes back to this verb. What a cool verb. Sending or ordering. Dasai to asuku aiwu. What do you want to order? So that could work at the shingit atchatakihiti. Okay. I do think it's a zero conjugation. So you could say You would say awu. Awu would be the, should be short, huh? Awu. Order it. Okay, بالشيش. Okay, thoughts or questions? We got more language production day. Okay, here's our next exercise. So I put this together today so we can just do some translation exercises. I had some idea that I think I'm going to abandon. Idea was to have this cool like little scenic background where you just listen to these birds chirp for like a minute. But then you can't see the words, so I have to adjust. But what I'm going to do is, so this says, we're going to use our language. That's a verb that could mean to use something or to make something into something. And the way this is going to work is the next slide, you will see either the English on the bottom or the tlingit on the top, and you will fill in the one that's not there. And how long do you need to translate a sentence? 1 minute?
Couple minutes.
Couple minutes? Okay.
Depends on the sentence.
Depends how much we have to interpret it.
Five? Okay, maybe, what do? Do I hit pause? Maybe I hit pause. So I will put it up, and I'll hit pause, and then when we're ready, I will unpause. So that we have all the time in the world. I don't want you to feel, okay, I don't want you to feel pressure, but I also want you to perform under pressure. So we'll go for a no pressure situation. Okay, here comes the first one. I am looking for a hammer. Oops, I paused the wrong thing. I don't even know how long we paused. It seemed like it was just only an instant. Who wants to?
I can give it a try.
Okay.
ʼakaduneek.
Okay. Oh, kochotis, that works. Yakun chashin, that works. Kochashi, okay. That's what I would say. Takka kochashi. You could say yakun chashin, which would be, some of these when you go with the progressive, it's like I'm going along looking for it. That's what it feels like to me. So this one does have an imperfective, which is like I'm looking for it now.
So why taklka instead of taklaga?
Yes, so qa is a suffix to mean go after, and it can go directly onto the noun for this verb. And same with like, you could say taklqa kukwagut, I'm going to go get a hammer. So the qa means to go after something with the intention of getting it, I guess. And so to say like, you could say the kuchatis verb is like you got some binoculars or something and you're looking for it. But this one implies like I'm feeling around for it. Okay?
Double checking my memory. You wouldn't attach this if it was a name or a pronoun.
Correct. I would say ʼatudli.átk kuchashi. And because qa is a vowel ending suffix, it's always opposite of the tone before it. Datqasaqishi. What are you looking for? Taql. Shutakl is a place name. I think it's on the maps as Lutak. Is that what they say? Lutak. Anybody know the Haynes area? Shitaql. It's the hammer nose of yeesh. Okay. Itia klingetetach. We cook khoshet eat. We cook khoshet eat. Kochte would to the good. Kochte would to the art. What you got? I got rid of that book. Okay.
I threw the book away.
Yeah, I threw the book and then I was like, well, maybe it's not throwing it away. Maybe it's like I put it in the book. Like I threw it in there.
Gone.
Be metaphorical.
Yeah, so this is related to the, there's these kind of related things like I shouldn't be eating before chicken. S'eek and eat. So what is that as a noun?
Trash.
Yes. S'eek. Is that as a noun? Dust or lint. And then eat is to throw something away. So it could be a paper. I think I had it as a paper. It could be a book as well. I threw away that paper. I threw away that book. Okay. And this doesn't imply like where you put it. It just means I trashed it. It gone. Okay. Next one. Did you sew those moccasins? And we'll pause. Geesh. And whatever you land on is all good because we're just learning. Anybody want to answer the, Adhishti til yaqa aga. We hashti til idaqis aga. We adhishti til idaqa. Okay. Any other variations? I would probably say we adhishti til yaqa. So there's a couple of things with the sewing verb. I do feel like when we've learned this verb, we've learned it as qais, because that is the imperfective, because you are sewing in a pattern with that S apostrophe on it. And so for some people to move it into a perfective or future, they sometimes want to keep the qais on there. And so the second thing is like there's also a plus D classifier version, and that means to remove, that means you've removed the object. So yaqa is you sewed it, and you'd have yaqiz, or sorry, yaqa. No, yidaqa, you sewed. You were just sewing. So there are some ways that Tlingit will take a transitive verb that hasn't, you're doing it to something. Like for example, awacha, they ate it. Atucha, they ate. Right? And so that one way is to substitute at, and that just locks up the object spot. There are some things that do that. It's worth noting that if you say at with the na, I would assume they were out drinking alcohol. So some of them do have special sort of meanings. But the second way that this can happen is you kick the object out, which forces the verb to go plus D. And there's a couple of them that do that, and sewing is one of them. So khwadaqa means I sewed, and khwaqa would be I sewed it.
So I notice almost everybody put the gay or age at the end, and you have it before the verb.
Yes, so the ge usually goes after the thing that you're asking. And so if I'm asking, so I think it's technically still fine, but it's almost like it just feels a little better when it comes after what's being questioned. So like, itlage chosatin, did I see your mother? Right? And so, itlage chosatin ge is a weird question. I guess, itlage yesatin. is that your mother that you saw? And it kaya. Did you see your mother? So they're slightly, I don't know. I like to have it here. Did you teach them? And so it just seems to, I would just say keep an eye on it. That seems to work both ways. The one where I like the is it okay? And that works really well to add to another verb to sort of ask permission for something. And you could use the future, but is it okay if I come by you? Right? Come see you? Any other questions?
Where do you get the A on age?
Usually if the word before it ends with a consonant, you'll have age. If it ends with vowel, you'll have ge. It just gives
Okay.
a separation. So you don't have tishke. Yeah. Okay. Maybe we'll try one more, then we'll move along to something else. Teach away. Hastukahaku. Hasijanak yahin yich. Teach away. Hastukahaku. Hasijanak yahin yich. And we'll pause for 30 seconds. I'm just kidding. The dog salmon released their eggs in the river. Yes, but
I got leave them behind in the river.
yeah. And so it is to let go of something repetitively. So they regularly let go of their eggs in this river, which I think is how you would say the dog salmon spawns in this river. But when I worked with speakers on saying spawning, there is a verb for spawning, but it seems to be reserved. But I get different answers. On the coast, it's pretty much herring only. And so when we were dealing with salmon eggs, it was Kahuanish who gave us this one, Hasajiwanak. They let go of their Hastukahaku Hasajiwanak. And then a jinak is a repetitive form for a zero conjugation verb. So that tells you a lot about this verb. If you wanted someone to drop something, to let it go, you could say jinak. I do say chinak to my dogs. I don't know if that's technically correct, but it means drop it from your mouth because they don't hold it in their hands. And then you could say a jiwanak would be the perfective of that one. Sheesh, kading kaya ako.
Question about
Nasa?
yich, yahin yich. Does that mean it's a shallow stream?
It just means it's in the water. And yik is very complicated when it comes to, like, hin yik does mean shallow water, but it could also mean just in the river generally. And it technically, you could say hin yik, and that could mean they walked along the valley that the river is in. And so it's one of those very contextual type of words. But in this case, it just means in the river. Okay. Good as cheesh.
But René, it's yich instead of yik, because is that repetitive? Is that what that is? Or
Yeah.
okay.
And so there's a couple of them like ʼatk and yik, where if a repetitive suffix goes on there, it just gobbles up the K. But you'd say yikt, and you'd say ʼaked, but you could say ʼat'ech, ʼat'ech w'lsin, ʼatz'aqi w'kegl. The dog regularly hides its bone behind that thing. You okay? Okay, let's see. Thanks for trying that out. I want to talk before we go about stem variation. I'd like to talk to you about stem variation. I feel like I should have a little brochure. Just go door to door. Like, excuse me, can I talk to you about stem variation? It's like have a little sign that I wear on my thing. It says Lingi. So, this is a bit of an older slide, but I want us to just think about stem variation, and it really comes down to three things. So one is the stem variation of the verb, two, the conjugation type of the verb, and three, the verb mode. Those three things will determine what the stem is. When we say stem, we're always talking about the vowel, and only the vowel. That's all we really care about. We're not talking about meaning or anything else. We're just saying, is that vowel going to be short and high, long and high, or long and low? Because those are your three options. So to start with, we have these stem variation types. So Tlingit is just a categorical language. Okay, I just keep trying to think of ways to make this stuff simple. Like one time somebody did get upset with me and said, "You're making it too complicated." I was like, well, it is complicated. I don't know what to do. But basically, let's start with this. A stem can be open or closed. If it's open, it ends with a vowel. If it's closed, it ends with a consonant. You have to know that, right? And so you have to know whether it's open or closed. When we get to open, there are two types. There's open and there's fading. Fading means there's a little H that goes right there. The only thing that that tells you is in repetitive and habitual modes, it stays long and low. That's what that tells you. Other than that, they follow the same patterns, open and fading. So we say, what I like to say is open, fading, closed, high. Those are the words I use to describe stem variation. So closed means it ends with a consonant and it does everything we expect it to do. That's it. It does everything we expect it to do. But then there's these two things. One is called glottalized, which means probably from Tanta Tlingit. It borrows some vowel behavior. And then there's ejective, which means it ends with an apostrophe. You don't have to know that. All you have to know is if in the theme you see it marked high, it will stay high. Okay? So there are some things like a negative perfective loves to be long and low. It's like, oh, I love long and low. Negative futures, long and low, bring it on. But this one says, I never go low. Those are your stem types. So if you look at a verb theme, ye, ya, subject, so the vertical subject, zero classifier, ka, this is na conjugation. So I guess the step after this, so these you could see open, fading, closed, high, high, invariable. So this is the last one. If it has this little X, it's just the same every time. There are some that are marked invariable, and one mode will have it change. But I guess the thing to remember is there's not very many invariable stems, but every verb root that has two syllables will be invariable. So niguat will be invariable. It means to paint. Naniguat, paint it. Okay. Any questions about this? Okay. So when you start thinking about how this works, the perfective is a really good place to start. So here's a perfective, and you have open and closed. Those are your two categories, okay? Open and closed. All zero open will be long and high in the perfective. That's why you said ʼatudli.átk, because that's a zero conjugation verb. So it must be long and high in the perfective. This is a constant in Tlingit. All the others, na, ga, and qa, are long and low. K'átsk'u, did you sew it carefully? K'átsk'u, did you sleep well? First one was long and high. Second one was long and low. For closed, all of your zero conjugation verbs want to be short and high. Another constant. If you look in the verb dictionary and you see a perfective that's short and high, that's probably a zero conjugation verb. All the others, so you'd say, that's why you say, hot iyagut, you came here. All the others are long and low. So you'd say, wade ye good, you went over there. This is where the single exception comes in. The ones that are marked high, these two, will stay high. So it's ga conjugation, but I'd say ye shot, you all caught it. And that's got to stay high. So when you see those ones, that's just one more thing to look at. If you see a high tone mark in the theme, it'll stay high. It's going to have to override this set of rules. But the perfective rules are manageable. Zeros that are open, long and high, everything else long and low. Zero closed, short and high, everything else long and low. It's that way every time. Any questions about that?
Yes. So it's staying high when you see the high tone in the stem. That is just for perfective, or is that always?
Always. It'll never have a low version. Because if we look down below, the rules for the negative perfective, zeros like to be short and high. It has to be. You shouldn't be saying kechwasaku. Like that's I make that mistake all the time. And it's fine. It's okay. But kechwasaku. All the others, so you could say kechwacha, I didn't eat it. Kechwata, I didn't sleep. So that's na. All the others, long and low. Negative closed, always long and low. Yay! But then there are, these ones will not go low, right? So again, good, you didn't go there. But you'd say, shot, you didn't grab it. Then that would stay high. So that overrides the rule. So when we start talking stem variation, we get a rule, and the rule is made up of two things. The conjugation type and the verb mode. Then that applies to the type of stem, which follows a set of rules. And then I think that's how I look at this. Like fading, it only comes into play when you deal with the repetitive and the habitual. But this one, just say, follows all the same rules, but it stays high. Any questions about that? The goal with telling you this is so that you can start looking at verb themes and you will never have to look them up. You can look at that theme and you can conjugate it. And you know what it comes down to is the prefix and the stem. The prefix is like all the components that get activated, object, subject, any of the conjugation stuff, any of the thematic things that are in there. And that's totally predictable. That's where you're going to get gachi and kuka and woo and uwa and all that stuff. Then the second part is the stem. Once you get that relationship down, you can use any verb in any way you want to. But it's a process, right? It's this thing, then this thing. So the future is always long and high in the positive, always long and low in the negative. That's the easiest stem variation that there is. That is always the way it wants to go. So when you look at the conjugator in the top right hand of the cards, or the pages, it shows you what the stem variation is for that particular verb. And it's pretty, well, it's divided into the conjugation type and the stem type, because that goes mode by mode by mode. This is one of the more complicated parts of Lingi. It's usually the last thing I start to teach people. I don't know why. I don't know. But it's extremely predictable. But it's like Lingi, it's like, okay, yeah, you could speak. You just get like these 6 sets of rules you have to follow simultaneously. No big deal. But as we go through, we're going to start looking at examples, and then we're going to start making predictions. So that when we look at things, we'll say, okay, let me look at that, and I should be able to predict what the stem will be. So whenever I say stem, your answer should be short and high, long and low. Be something like that. Make sense? Okay, guy? Okay. Wednesday's a little different. We will be joining a MOOC, if that's okay with everybody. I gotta look up the details on this thing. Any questions?
So short is always high and low is always long. If it's short and high, long and high, or long and low, then if it's
Yes,
short, it has to be high. And if it's low, it has to be long.
that is correct.
Okay.
Now, there are instances you'll see where if you have something like verby yeah, that might flatten it and you will have a short low. But it's only because it's been flattened by something else.
Well, yeah, but then we get into the exception.
Yes.
I don't have room in my brain for exceptions yet. I have to learn the rule first.
You are correct. So the Outer Coast does have a MOOC. So there are a couple things to keep in mind. Oh, let's see. Did I share the right thing? I don't think I did. Okay, hold on. This one. Okay. So it's a ʻusky MOOC. So this is what we're going to do on Wednesday. If you can't do 6 to 8 p.m., like, feel free to just sign off at 7. It's totally okay. But we will start a little bit later. And I do think you have to sign up for it. So I think you fill this out and then it sends you it'll be a different Zoom link. So I will be signing on at 5:30 to this one, just in case anybody needs to get the memo. The news.
Can you post a link to the sign up in the chat, please?
Yes, I can. I was trying to tie it back to the fortune cookie. What was it? Information. A message is coming your way. The message is
A message from a distance.
yeah, and it's
The message is go to the MOOC on Wednesday.
MOOC aya ye'ikwasatin. So okay, well we get to, but in the future we will be like looking at how does all of this fit together, like the verb mode, the conjugation type, and like really starting to get into the nuts and bolts of that, which is our Monday classes are going to be part of like translation, think of a sentence for this, but it's also going to be some of the nuts and bolts of this kind of stuff. But I think I said I want to do Monday conversation. Okay, we'll see. One qaninza k'átsk'u ʻaduwóos'i. Okay. Ishke wasai uti. Is everybody okay? Okay. Gulchish klein ukei jiné kachunach. Wooch Christine. Neski Gihana, Cledushu Gao, Mook. Owa,
Ah.
Gilchish.
And tomorrow I'm pretending like I know what I'm doing with verbs sometime around 9 if anybody wants to join me. I figure I'm going to start with trying to find good common verbs in each of the conjugation classes with all the classifiers, so that way I can kind of have a framework to base things off of.
Yeah.
And that is PM?
Yes, that is PM. I will be at work at 9 a.m.
Okay, Gilchish.
Sheesh.
Sheesh.
See ya again.
Ah,
Jagen.
Echa.
Amazing. Are you gonna